Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dentistry Unmasked. My name is David Rice here, as always, with
Hey everybody, Pam Maragliano-Muniz. What is going on this week?
sunshine, blue skies, good things. How about you, Pam?
Gray
Yeah.
skies, some snow, and I think some more snow. So I think you got the long end of the stick this week for me.
Well, we got a great guest today, right? We got happy times now.
Oh, we do. Parag Kachalia. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I've been following you, the work that you've done, your lectures, your commitment to technology, and I'm just so happy to finally get you on here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be with you guys today.
I'm so happy to have you here. So let's just kind of start off because your story is interesting in dentistry. And so I would love for you to kind of tell us your story and tell us, kind of where have you been and where are you now?
Yeah, so if you asked me day one at dental school, what my career would look like over a 20 plus year span, it would be nothing into how it's actually turned out. And so I thought I would go to dental school and practice, 3 to 4 days a week and then teach a day. That was like the goal kind of going in. And then you end up saying a yes to a few things, and a yes to a few things turns into a very different career path than you imagined, but it's been fantastic. So I graduated in 2001 from the University of Pacific, born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but raised in the Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, kind of before it became Silicon Valley. So, tech has been near to me as just a part of life, but, it was by no means in the tech space, nor did I have family in the tech space. And then when I left the University of Pacific in 2001 and decided to go back and teach a day, I did in the fixed cross section simulation laboratory, thinking, I teach students how to cut crown preps. And about 3 years into it, they asked me to take over the fixed pros section. I'm like, I'm not a prosthodontist. How can I be a course director for this? And like, well, there's this thing called CAD CAM occurring, and we think this intraoral scanning is going to happen. And we want someone to take a risk and kind of figure all that stuff out. And if we're willing to do it from a ceramic standpoint and it's partial coverage dentistry, and it works out, then great, our program can move forward into a different dimension. And if it doesn't, hey, we tried this, we moved on, and you're the guy that was the asterisk essentially on the sheet, and then we move on from you, and that was it. My wife is, we met in dental school, and so we always had a practice outside of it. She taught for a long time within it as well, and then had this practice outside, and spent 17 years at UOP, also practicing outside the institution. Art Degoni was our dean for a long time, just an amazing individual who really wanted his faculty to also practice. And so I did that up until 2017, and then I was fully tenured at I think I was just under 40 years of age, and then walked away from my tenure in 2017. Like nobody does that. I'm like, well, I'm here because I love teaching. I don't necessarily love all the politics you have to deal with as you kind of rise up the ladder, but it was a teaching that I loved. And then moved over to Seattle Study Club, which I'm happy to share about that a little bit. As a chief clinical officer, there have been hugely impactful my career trajectory and where I was in terms of like just learning modules and kind of group dynamics. And then most recently joined an AI company, Overjet here in the Silicon Valley. It's kind of my general path.
That's an incredible path. And I think a testament to all of our young listeners out there that we've told the story a million times, right, Pam? Like there are so many opportunities in dentistry. That DMD, that DDS, like buys you all the opportunity in the world. You just have to be open to what comes your way. So I'm curious, and you mentioned like you didn't necessarily expect to be where you are today. Like, were there people that you met, like an Artagoni, who like just reshaped your path for you or opened your eyes to new things?
I think there's a few things that occurred. So if there was like a really like impactful thing, going through school, is there was a day where, I remember turning like a practical score in and I got like a 3 out of 10 on, or I got a 4 out of 10 on something, 4 out of 9. I'm like, I've never received a grade like this in my life. Like what is that? And you can turn your grade in for an appeal. And if you disagree with it, an appeal went to a chair. Chair name, at that time was a gentleman named Mark Eisberger, really influential at that portion of my life. And I turned it in, and he's like, "You're right. This is not a 4. It's a 3." And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious right now?" Like, and that was my like aha moment of dentistry is just a different game, right? We were always used to studying really hard for an examination, but that tactile skill set in the early days was something I wasn't ready for. But what was inspiring about him, though, is even though that was a grade I received, he was always the first to be there to help you, to grow you, to move you to the next level, as long as you're willing to put the work in. And that's the kind of mindset I ended up taking as myself as well, as like, I want to be able to be this person for somebody else at some point, right? Is like, I'm willing to put all the work in, the energy in. And if you're willing to do that, I will double it. Like, I want to get you to somewhere else. And that's dentistry is a small profession. There's a lot of opportunity we have. If you're just willing to share and listen for a moment and have some humility, there's amazing things in what you can ultimately end up doing that were not the expectation, right? So I think getting into point, I think it's a community effect. Yeah, there was this one person that did impact that thinking bigger and perfect, like being a perfectionist to a degree, but it's that hard work and being able to go after what you think you may want, or at least not say no, say yes to opportunities as they come up, and see what happens.
So, David, I want to hear your story on this one because in dental school, I think we had, I don't know, 140, 150 kids in my class. And there was an oral surgery exam where I got the worst grade in the class. They used to post our grades with like part of our social security number. And I'm looking, and I was like, this can't, this can't be. This is impossible. How can I have the worst grade in the entire class? It's not possible. So I march up to the oral surgery department and I was like, we need to talk about this. There's no way I got like there must have been something wrong there. Like my Scantron must have been off. Like there has to be some understanding like this is wrong. And so we went through every question. He's like, I see what you're thinking. And I don't disagree with you, but it was wrong. And he was like, and I had that moment where I was like, wow, sometimes you just need to study and memorize things because trying to reason the answer doesn't always get you there. And so that was a shocking moment for me. I was so depressed. I walked right down to Downtown Crossing. I bought like 3 pairs of shoes, a jacket, and a bag. It barely made me feel better, but I feel like it's a growing experience. And I think that like sometimes you got to get knocked down a notch to grow further.
Mine was pre-clinic. It was in those days operative, and I was making a custom tray. Was it Ivoline or Ivorin that Ivoclar made? It was like the most ridiculously smelling stuff in the whole world, and you made custom trays with it. Of course, it was like toxic, but we ate it for breakfast as students. And we had these mini competencies, and they were only worth 2 points, but I got a 0 out of 2. And same thing, Prague. I was like, I don't get zeros out of 2. What are you talking about? Like I've been like a 4.0 student my whole life. I don't get a 0 out of 2, and went to my part-time faculty member. And I think he just looked at me and he's like, maybe you just don't get it, Rice. I'm like, oh, so yeah, here we are. Somehow we all survived.
That's right.
Somehow we all survived. But I have to say, Parag, one of my, I think, mantras in this life is if I can't do something or I don't want to do something, it's okay to say no. But I'm not willing to say no to something out of fear.
Right.
I feel like, if my reason is, I don't know, I'm a little scared of that, maybe I just should not do it. I'm inevitably going to say yes to it because I feel like you can always not enjoy it and never do it again. But I feel like there's something to be said about saying yes. And so on this journey, which I mean, we all have a journey, it's all an evolution. But was there ever a time where you were like really unsure if you were making the right choice and you kind of hesitated a little bit? And what got you through that?
For sure. So there's like the one moment in time of someone people ask me all the time, like, did you always want to be a speaker? Is that kind of what your goal was to be out there? I'm like, actually not at all. I mean, in like high school, I was deathly afraid of public speaking. Like I could not do it. And to this day, if you pointed like at one teacher that changed my life, it was my speech teacher in high school. It completely changed my outlook on things. But even as a dental student, I didn't think I'd be the person on stage, giving talks after all these years. But there was a moment that happened. The Academy of General Dentistry was meeting in San Francisco. And it was probably like 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. And there was a speaker who was going to speak on technology and kind of CAD/CAM. And at that point, there wasn't a lot of CAD/CAM happening, but they were going to speak on it. And they ended up getting sick. And I remember the Henry Schein regional manager calling me. He's like, "Hey, so and so is sick. Are you able to give a presentation tomorrow at the AGD meeting? For this topic. We know you lecture about it at the dental school." And it was third. He called me on Thursday. I had to speak on Friday. I'm like, "Sure, I can do that." Oh, and by the way, how long is it? And they go, "It's 6 hours. It's 6 hours of content time." And I'm like, I don't know if I have 6 hours of content time in 2007, 2008, let alone for a practitioner. I can do for dental students, but for a practitioner, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna say yes and figure it out. And so I stayed up all night, like cranking out content to be able to present. And in this day and age, I look back at it as probably terrible in what I created. But at that time, as scared as I was to do it, it was one of these opportunities where I'm like, I have to take this because I don't know if it's ever going to come back. And what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is you give a poor presentation, and hopefully you're early enough in your career that you rebound at some point. But thankfully, it went good enough. It was good enough for that day. And that's really what led to everything else. That's now what led to, probably presented 500 times all over the world. Like never in a million years would have imagined that. But it was just saying that yes to that at that time.
How about you, Pam? I mean, you went from hockey goalie, I'm going to go back in time.
You're really going kicking it old school.
I'm kicking it old school. You went from hockey goalie to hygienist to dentist to pros to, still pros, but running dental economics. So what was a scary moment for you?
Oh, there's been a lot of them. I'd say probably speaking was mine. It certainly wasn't something I ever thought I would do. I remember so in 2010, I was awarded the Adult Preventive Care Practice of the Year. We literally did that because we wanted a little plaque for our wall. So when we kind of tweaked the Canberra document for private practice, we just wanted our patients to see we were recognized by the ADA. Awesome. And then all of a sudden people were like, "Do you want to speak?" And I'm like, Not really, but I guess I will." And it started off with webinars. And let me tell you, I was like, I had this whole setup in front of me. I had water because I need water. And then I'd have wine in case I got scared. And then I'd have an energy drink in case I got tired, or coffee or something. Like I had like this whole setup for like any possible thing that can happen. I need to have like the proper beverage to like make up for whatever I need. And I used to script the whole thing. It was super stressful. And then same thing. They invited me to speak 3 hours. And again, you don't know, even an hour, like you don't really know at that time how many slides you need. So I probably had, I don't know, for a 3 hour lecture, I probably had like 500 slides. Like I had no idea what I needed because I wanted to make sure I had enough there. And sort of like one thing led to another. And you just keep doing it to the point where I can't even believe at this point like my heart doesn't even race even a little bit. So like now I'll challenge myself by, I don't know, sometimes wearing like 4-inch heels. And I'm like, well, at least like I'll try not to fall today. Like I feel like, I still like to continue to challenge myself. But yeah, it's one of those things that's just sort of one thing led to another. And being open to the opportunity is a big deal. And again, like, I feel like when people say, "Oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I'm like, I would never, ever limit myself by my sad little imagination. I'm 100% here for the ride because who knows what's going to happen. What about you, David?
It's funny you say that. It's funny speaking came up. I'm an introvert, a total introvert. And I only started to speak Prague similar to you, look, because I was petrified to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm afraid of it. I refuse to let it beat me. I need to at least do it once and see. And I remember being in the basement of the library at Buffalo's Dental School, and it was being broadcast to, probably like 3.5 people, but at the time it felt like a million people. And I only wore a suit because I was afraid for people to see the sweat running down my back. I was so nervous. And then, to both of your points, one day you wake up and you're like, wow, this is kind of fun. And if it's fun, I'm going to work at it. And if it's fun and I work at it, I'll probably get a little better over time. And, here we all are. But it's kind of cool personal journey. And I love that twist for us today too, because I feel like dentistry's made that journey too. And I think dentistry today is probably in a place where a lot of people had no idea it could come to from a tech standpoint. Parag, like you're heavily involved with a lot of that. So very cool. I'd love to hear more.
Yes, the tech piece has been interesting. And I think a lot of what I look at is I look at what do companies outside of dentistry do? And so, yes, within dental, there's innovation for sure. But what are the Apples and the Googles and the Amazons of the world? What are they doing from this customer journey standpoint? And then just looking at the reality of our patient base, and they're going through a customer journey as well, through a patient's lens. And I always try to see if there's things we can pick from that other space. And so, that's where I think whether it's intraoral imaging or intraoral scanning or AI now, it's about getting patients on board. And I think about the example is if you walk into an Apple store today and you might have a 2-year-old in your hand and the 2-year-old might be slobbering over the iPhone as you're playing around with it. Apple loves that, right? They love the fact that there's an immersion happening of that child while they're there. And there's no do not touch sign anywhere. There's no like line you have to stand in to be able to pay for the product they've just been educated on. They've taken away all the friction. But in healthcare, historically, we've put up a lot of friction points along the way, right? There's always this kind of patient handoff to somebody else to take care of the next job. And we've lost some of that trust equation and ability. And I think it's becoming more and more challenging with our next generation. So, my mom at 84 years of age, whatever her healthcare practitioner says, she does. But someone who's a Gen Xer like myself or a millennial might say, wait a minute, I want to see another level of proof, or I want to be able to believe in it myself. And that's where I think when we look at things like imaging and the AI platforms, there's a definite benefit clinical diagnosis, but the other big benefit is, and part of why I joined Overjet, is this patient education piece, like letting patients understand what's happening in their mouth. So it's not just a printout of your PMS system that says, here's a tooth number and here's a charge. We have no idea why. It's like kind of getting back to that why piece.
I think this is really interesting. And I want to hear, what do you think the best practice is? Like, I feel like I don't have AI in my practice yet. I'm super interested in it. And I think probably the reason I'm going to get it is going to be because when I have multiple hygienists, I'm so concerned that I have my own columns of patients and I've got to run in and see hygiene patients. I'm worried I'm going to miss something. And so I feel like it would be really helpful to have something that just sort of flags something that, I could have missed otherwise. But I'm wondering, what do you think is the best way to integrate this into your practice? Do I have my hygienist kind of show the patient where AI has kind of stepped in and they're flagging these areas, and then me come in blind and see if me and AI match? Or do I, kind of come in my office, go check the x-rays with AI in the background, and then like go up front and see the hygiene patient? I feel like there's a few different workflows, and I bet you there's probably a best one.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. So I would say, first and foremost, we as clinicians are the place of truth, right? And then what I mean by that is AI is giving you suggestions today. So I think everyone needs to understand it's not replacing our clinical mindset, it's augmenting it. It's digital loops in some way, right? It's the ability to see more. But with that, the first stage for me would be it should not be a case-by-case basis. So if you're going to implement AI, apply it across the board where you make it a concerted effort. Every patient we're going to see, we're going to look at the AI images. So in my practice, I look at the raw images first without any AI findings. I want to have a non-biased view to what I'm seeing. And then once that's established, it's as easy as literally clicking a space bar. The beauty of AI is there's no workflow change. You're not like having to learn how to scan patients. You're taking the radiographs like you've always taken them. They're just going through an algorithm now. It's a simple on-off switch. You can turn things on and off. So my team is empowered, is my hygienist takes the radiographs within recall. Discussions occur with the patients through the AI findings that are there. When I walk into the room, they're off. So I can then have an unbiased view into what I see. But now when I bring them back on, they've already seen some of it occur, right? But also the second piece of that is you said, okay, should I look at my office before I go into the patient? The beauty is when the systems go in today, like in Overjet's case, we actually look at the last 12 months of all imaging you've done and give you any findings along the way. So you have got the cheat sheet or cliff notes before you see the patient. So like it's much more of a directed exam, right? It's to say, okay, let me make sure that these are things I agree with. And then if they're there, hopefully I found something small before it got bigger, right? And then, I have a gaming monitor in my private office, but my hygiene op 2 may be an old monitor, sun shining in, which it's not the same level of crispness. So, but AI is agnostic to all that. It's like, I'm not biased by it. I'm looking behind the scenes. So what's happening.
I
So,
love it. And I'll tell you, like in practices we go in and work with and try to elevate them,
yeah,
one of the most important things that we're able to do is calibrate.
yeah,
So the patient journey is the same in hygiene room 1, 2, 3, 4, dentist A, B, C, and we have an opportunity to discuss philosophy, get everybody's on the same page, everybody's saying the same thing in the same language, and it's just so much simpler for a patient to have trust because we're all coming from this objective space and calibrated, and the AI has been a big part of that.
and I think a lot of that, just kind of piggyback off of that, is we have a very finite amount of time to convey a message to a patient.
Yeah.
And I even think about it, if I go to type happy birthday to somebody on my cell phone today, my iPhone automatically turns it into a cake. It's like, don't even waste your time typing a happy birthday message out, right? Because they're going to respond to an image as an emoji. And so we can't think about in our dental office that suddenly there's a different switch that flips to say, oh, I'm going to listen to every word you're saying intently when an image can get me on the same page faster, right? Like, I do think that imaging piece is incredibly important today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like we live in such a visual society where if there's no photo of it, it never happened.
Right.
I feel like explaining a cracked tooth to a patient without a photo is just a waste of everybody's time unless the tooth is literally there's a cusp missing or, something like that. I feel like this is really no different. I'm wondering though, from an interpretation standpoint, you know how we were taught when you're reading bite wings that the lesion is actually larger than it looks on the x-ray? If you're kind of like right at the DEJ or you're like kind of like, should I ream in or should I jump in with a burr? How sensitive would you say AI is in those instances when you're trying to make a decision? Do I do it or do I not?
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to that. One is you need to be able to have your own calibration and trust the technology for your clinical protocols, right? So I had used the AI system for 2 years before I started working here. And so stage one for me was like, yeah, in the beginning, I'm like, I'm not sure. Let me see. And as I started to open things up, when I wanted to open them and then kind of correlate them back to the radiographs, I started to have a lot more trust in what the AI was showing me. But we also need to understand AI models are continuously improving. So what was happening a year ago is much better today than it was a year ago. And that doesn't mean we don't get on board. It means kind of software side platform, you will always get the latest innovation that's out there. The newest piece that we should all start looking at is what we call multi-image or multimodal. Multi-image being, if you look at two radiographs, and on one you see it, on one you don't, right? Which happens all the time, right? I can kind of see here, I'm not kind of see there. We're now training the AI to look at all the data sets, look at everything you have, and based on everything you have, make it your best guess estimation as to what's happening in that area. And so it is pixel level determination. The models are being trained so at the pixel level, you can determine, we say caries, but to be quite frank, is a radiolucency. Like, can I determine a radiolucency in this area? And is it my clinical decision to say, is it caries or something else, right? But the accuracy levels are quite high, especially as we go to multi-image. Where there's
It's
heavy,
so darn cool to me.
yeah, yeah,
It's come such a long way.
it really has.
How about educationally for with students, like what schools have adopted and how has that changed the speed with which, people are learning?
Yeah. So there are definitely more and more schools adopting the technology. It's one of those things now where, it's this kind of this augmented learning that can occur from a school type standpoint. So I think back to my radiology block, and I'm dating myself because we actually had to develop film back there. We transitioned midway, but early stage was developing film. And what the radiologist could see versus what I could see were two very, very different things. But now in the training model, if we both start with here's something that's there, you missed it, here is colorized, and now you go back, I think of like an internal resorption lesion on like 24 or 25. You see it at the point you see it, like, how did I miss that? And now that you see it, you go back 3, 4, 5 years earlier, like, oh my gosh, it's been there the entire time,
Hmm.
right? So the AI helps you get there faster, helps your eyes calibrate quicker to learn how to read the shades of gray, is my belief in it. So I think more and more schools will continue to implement, and then we have to be ethical about all AI usage. I think if we hold that ethics piece that's there, there's a lot of possibility.
So what do you think? So, gosh, you were one of the early, I wouldn't say adopters, but you were kind of thrown into CAD CAM pretty early
Oh,
on. And so I think like from a practitioner standpoint, we were like, let's wait and make sure that it's reliable before I jump in and use it. And I feel like the trajectory of AI has been so much faster. So, since it hit the market versus adoption, I feel like we could comfortably adopt AI into our practices so much. I don't think like waiting is going to do you any real benefit at this point. What do you think?
yeah, I totally agree. So unlike the early days of CAD CAM where you're asked to use a different material than what you were using, so I think back to porcelain fused to metal and gold, like those were the standards early on, and you were told to make a leap of faith into a ceramic restoration of some kind. In the AI world, there doesn't have to be a leap of faith because you are still making the determination of what you're doing. It's just helping you see things clearer and sooner and getting the patient on board. And there's no big capital investment. So as innovations come out, there's no like, oh, I wish I bought this year's model versus last year's model, right? It's the continual improvement piece that's occurring with the software platforms.
That's pretty cool. Really cool.
How how quickly how quickly would you see like this just becoming the standard of care in dental practice?
Yeah, so I think AI having, it's kind of like one of those things. Are loops the standard of care today? So some would argue yes, some would argue no. Is it going to become the standard of care in the near future? I wouldn't say that, but I think it's going to be something that more and more people are going to find the benefits within, right? Is I would never say a clinician who's not using it is a lesser clinician. I would say, hey, this is allowing me the best of who I can be.
I
I
think
like that.
that's great. I have a question about Overjet
Yeah.
themselves. I feel like Overjet, I don't know if I'm using the right verbiage here, but maybe caught a little heat or maybe got a little reputation in the industry as kind of partnering up with insurance companies. And so a lot of practitioners were like, if they're pro insurance company and the insurance company's using it with the intention of not providing reimbursements, I think that some dentists out there might have a little tood with Overjet. Like where are we on that?
Yeah, and that's an important point. So uh, I'm a solo private practice. I practice with my wife, but really a one dentist a day type practice, right? We are while we're not in network with many plans, we do bill our patients' insurances and want to make sure they have a seamless effort in what they're doing. So, very much like you and others, I'd be like, well, wait a minute. If you're in both sides of the equation, are you really looking out for the clinician, right? So as I got to learn more about the company, what I realized was part of the reason Overjet has taken the stance of being on the payer side as well as the dentist side, the clinician side, is to really understand what that payment process looks like. Because there's massive friction, right? It's like I treatment plan scaling and route planning based on I know this patient has bone loss and deep pockets. It didn't get paid for. Well, why not? Like, where is that disconnect occurring? So today, in today's world in the US, even if you as a dentist are not using any AI in your practice, 115 million patient lives in the US today, those claims will be processed through an AI engine on the back end. And those claims today are being processed, quite frankly, by Overjet's AI engine because the payers have trusted the accuracy of what's being submitted to them. So quite frankly, they can get rid of headcount, that there's no human that has to look at it. Now, with that being said, Overjet is not involved in any denial process at all. It is simply this is what insurance company A asked for. You, the dentist, met the criteria for this patient. You submitted it. It should be auto adjudicated and paid for and done. The concept is the same measuring stick, right? Is like whatever they're using it by, you get to see it on your end. And so And there's a distinct wall put up at Overjet that there's employees that don't cross back and forth between the two. You're on the insurance side, you're on the clinician side. I'm on the clinical team, on the practice team that's saying, let's do everything we can to make sure what we're doing as clinicians is being shown accurately. So it's not I see that the optics like, oh, they're kind of in bed with insurance companies. And the reality is that the founder really wanted to make sure that the claim payment process doesn't have these friction points. So the patient actually gets the end care that you, the provider, have recommended they should get. To the point where there's actually some AI models we're releasing on the claim reimbursement side will be auto adjudicated. That you're going to say tooth number 14 had 52% tooth missing with decayed. There's going to be no claim. You'll submit the radiograph and you'll have auto payment and adjudication into your bank account because there's no gray area. It's already been decided. Like, here's what the insurance company wanted. The patient had that issue. You as a clinician did the right thing. So let's not wait 5 weeks to pay this claim. Let's do it right now.
Fascinating. I could see that where that could be a win. If that they was dialed in on both sides, and there's really zero discrepancy there's zero question. I see this, I know this will happen. That can make sense.
Yeah.
All right. Pam, where's the time go, for goodness sakes?
I don't know, but I told you like this was going to be like,
you did.
It feels like 2 seconds go by. This is how it always is when I'm near Parag. Remember that dinner we went to with Michelle?
Isn't it still going on right now, that same dinner?
I know. We had dinner, like we all just got chatting, and that dinner must have gone on for like the entire night. It was just like so much fun. So Parag, seriously, thank you so much for joining us. And we know that this is not the end of the road for you. Who knows where life's going to take you next? And where can people follow you? Where can they learn from you? And where are you off to next?
Yeah, so I'm off to where am I? Off to Arizona this week, but the best place to kind of reach me, and I'm happy to also always answer messages and things, is on Instagram. My handle is @TechDDS. It's just TECHDDS. And dental community is small. Let's all keep in touch with each other. Let's help each other out. And I'm more than happy to share the good, the bad, the ugly of what's going on in my life.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so happy to have you join us this week. And everybody, told you it was going to be a good week. And we can't wait to see you next week. So thank you for joining us on Dentistry Unmasked. We'll see you then.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.